with the way I'm feeling. There's a harmony that I hear in my soul, sets my head reeling. 'Cause I'm in tune, right in tune. I'm in tune, and I'm gonna tune. Ride it on you, ride it on you, ride it on you. I'm in pain. 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 I'm in a bag. I'm in a bag. I'm in a bag.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Level Up Cleveland. And this week, we have with us Mr. Rich Spina.
Hello.
Mr. Rich Spina is lead singer, songwriter. He's a musical director. He's a road manager, keyboardist, record producer. Now, he's not maybe all these right now at the same time, but he has been these things throughout his whole career. Different things, worked with different bands, written with songs with other bands, done all kinds of stuff. Originally, in the 70s, he was in a band called Love Affair, and they actually had a hit song called Mama Says
Yes.
at the time. Thanks for coming, Rich.
Thanks for having me. This is fun. I've been looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. Been looking forward to having you on. Actually, Rich, you were like one of the guys when we first started this podcast that we consistently talked about getting Rich being on this show. So for us, this is actually a pretty big deal. So right now, what's going on with you? I mean, like, I'd like to get back into your career and go through things like kind of chronologically. But like, well, how things going for you?
Oh, things are going great. You know, I was off for, what was that? I stepped off a plane on May 8th in March 8th in 2020, and I didn't get back on a plane until May the following year in 2021. But since then, we've been busy. You know, my current thing is keyboardist, production coordinator, and for Herman's Hermits starring Peter Noon. And we're back. We're not back to the schedule that we once had, but I think we're doing 100 shows this year.
Wow.
And yeah, the year of the pandemic, we would have done 145 or whatever, you know. But so I've been doing that. I mean, I've been trying to do more stuff at home. Once our schedule kicked in, I mean, that was the one thing about the pandemic was I started getting back involved in a lot of creative things. And, I mean, it was kind of funny. The first 2 months that everything shut down, I was just mad. But then I started getting other things done. And then I started getting involved in more creative stuff. I rebuilt my studio, which I'm, waiting to do another album. I've got a few songs already done, but I'm looking for the time to finish it now.
A solo album?
Yeah. Yes.
So you have 2 solo albums currently, right?
Yes.
Okay. So first, I'd like to get back to the beginning, kind of.
Yeah.
Because that's really where,
Yeah.
So where are you from originally?
I'm from Cleveland. I was born in Cleveland. I basically grew up in Brook Park, and I'm back living in Brook Park now, too.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. And what I felt, the luckiest thing, the thing I feel most blessed about is I never had to leave Cleveland to have my career. Once Love Affair, we had our record deals, and I had made enough connections during that time period, whereas I was able to move on to other things without having to leave here. Because I really didn't have a desire. You know, I don't like California. I count the minutes till I'm out of it. Though I do love, love New York City. I like Cleveland. I love our 4 seasons. I love all of our. I love the fact that it's a big city without all the big city problems. You know, rush hour here is just slowed down 10 minutes.
Yeah, right.
You
Compared
know?
to some places, people think this is bad. Go elsewhere.
Yeah, and I used to moan about that, but and like what I always joked around about was if I had to live in California, I'd have been Michael Douglas and falling down. One day I would have just gotten out of my car and just
the bat.
Yeah.
That's good. Well, I mean, so yeah, you're right about that, because when you really think about it, there's not a lot of people who can really hone in a musical career and not have to leave this city at some point in their career to kind of do so. And you've managed to do that, because literally that is your job. I mean, music is your job.
Yes,
right?
and again, you could have to go wherever it takes you. And I was just lucky that I was able to still stay centered out of here. I could go someplace if I had to do business and come right back and stuff. And I mean, and I'm one of the still fools that still love snow too. I mean, I love all 4 seasons.
Do you go out and do snow sport type events? Do you ever do stuff like that also? Do you enjoy snow that way?
No, I would if I had time to, but I don't really have time to. I just enjoy it. I mean, of course, nobody likes winter in the end of January, beginning of February, but, I can't see having Christmas without a winter. I mean, I remember when Love Affair was touring, sometimes we were down in Florida, getting home right before Christmas Day, and we just didn't even feel like it was Christmas, and it was almost comical seeing Christmas stuff out when it's all warm weather and stuff.
Yeah,
I mean, that was my first hit on that, Well, yeah, you seeing those commercials where they show the palm tree with the lights in it, because that's supposed to be the Christmas tree type thing, right? Yeah.
So you were born in Cleveland, lived in Brook Park.
Yeah.
At what point did you start getting involved in music, and how and why and all that?
As long as I can remember. That's what I wanted to do. I mean, I also was acting when I was really young. And, for me, I saw the Ed Sullivan Show when the Beatles were first on. And 4 days later, I saw Elvis Presley's movie, I Gotta Follow That Dream. And I knew from that on I was going to be in music one way or another.
Which one more, Beatles or Elvis?
Oh, Beatles. But, I mean, I loved it both. In other words, I wasn't one that got caught up in the fact of, I had one or the other. In fact, one of the best things that ever happened to me was in junior high. I already knew I wanted to be in music. I'd written my first song. I wrote it for an English project. And I'm sitting, and I'm in my science class, and I'm watching these guys arguing about the Beatles and the Stones. And,
yeah, right.
This guy's saying, no, the Beatles suck. I love the Stones. And I'm listening to them, and they're both really mean it. And I'm going, I love them both, and I'm going, wow, if somebody actually can think the Beatles suck, there's going to be quite a few people that don't like me. Yeah, so right. I'll just worry about the people that like me.
It seems like you were never really, in general, just into the competitive thing with music. You just enjoyed all these bands and was like, there's no reason to say that why does one have to always be better and all that kind of thing.
Well, because I'm one of these odd guys, At the same time I loved my Led Zeppelin, I also loved the Partridge Family and loved loved the Osmond
music,
Brothers.
Period,
I loved, to me they are what they are, you know what I mean? In other words, I loved my parents' music. I guess it's just maybe my deep love for music. I just loved everything on the different levels. What took me a while was country. Country was probably the slowest thing for me to go.
Kind of warm up to.
Wow, and now I this stuff is great. The lyrics are great. All that stuff is great. But when I was younger, that was the one that I started going, no, not me.
Yeah, right. So high school, did you go to Brook Park? Did you go to
Mid-Park?
Mid-Park, yeah, that would have been Mid-Park, right?
Yeah.
So you went there, and were you involved in music at that point yet? Are you in bands, that kind of thing?
Yes, I got in one of my first bands when I was in the 10th grade. They were all older than me. And gosh, 2 of them stayed in the music business. Both of them ended up in lounge bands and stuff when they were older. But I got in that with them as a lead singer. And what's really funny is I really think what made the difference with me, of course I saw my local groups that I loved, I mean, I could just stare and learn so much stuff. I remember when Circus was out and go see them, I used to sneak in to see Damnation of Adam Blessing, and saw the Raspberries when I wasn't 18 yet, but I got in one way or another. But
when you could do stuff like that.
Yeah. But then there was a place I was hanging out at called the Berea Community Center in Berea. And that's where I really met bunch of like-minded people and stuff. Because you could hang out there, and it was all musicians, and there was people playing there every weekend, and that's really where I met the guys that were in Love Affair. I was the last member of that band. They were together. They were called Brick, and then they wanted to find a manager, and they found a manager with Otto Nuber, and they were Skyport. Then my first gig with them, we were Stairway. We changed our name to Love Affair when we knew we were starting to add original material. We were changing the way bar bands were. Bar bands were still doing 4 sets a day, for a night and stuff. We said, no, we're doing 3 1-hour shows and that's it. And we started making it more of a show instead of a dance bar night and stuff.
I got
That's
you.
when we first changed our name to Love Affair.
When you say making it more of a show, are you bringing in lights now and that kind of thing?
Yeah, lights, follow spots, and all that. And we were the very first band, I think, in the nation that was wireless, because HME, which was a wireless company, was experimenting with us. So we first had their first wireless mic. I think I had that wireless mic in 78, and I think the band was wireless by 79.
Wow, that is early.
And it had a big impact then too when we were doing it. So yeah, we had a follow spot, we had lights going, we had a 5-man road crew at that time. We were still a bar band. Yeah, and that's like when we signed our record deal. They even asked if there was stuff we needed. We already owned most of our gear at that point because the circuit was great. You could make a lot of money in the circuit. In other words, I never at that point, I never thought that I would not be in music. At the worst, I just have to play 5 nights a week. That kind of
right.
thing
Because if things stay the way they are now, right?
And the money just kept, every time they made a new law or a new thing, like when the state went to 21 was what first hurt it, and then as all the other laws started coming in, and a new generation of people that music wasn't their most important thing, I mean, gosh, we even survived the disco era, the live clubs did,
Yeah. How did you feel about disco at that time? Were you?
I hated it then, but now I listen to it now and I'm going,
I'm the same way.
Good.
Right, I'm kind of the same way.
Yeah.
Right, you're kind of like seeing things in it that you would not even have thought about looking for before.
Yeah. I know. I thought that was like a threat to everything that I liked in the world.
Yeah, right. And you were a rocker.
Yeah.
Right. At heart.
Yeah.
So, Love Affair goes on. Now, at what point did you guys do Mama Says? Now you co-wrote that song.
Yes, I co-wrote it with Jim Quinn, who was in Damnation of Adam Blessing, and Otto Nuber, who's our manager. But yeah, I just found during the pandemic, I always said I wrote that song basically on the piano. In other words, Jim Quinn just had a musical idea, and Otto had these silly lyrics, and I had to make them not sound as silly or make it sound like I was making a joke of the lyrics.
Yeah, right.
So then that was when I'm sitting at the piano, never intending there to be a piano in the song anyways, but I was like, I found me working up the song, that kind of thing. And then brought it to the band, and then the band did their thing to it, and that's how Mama Says came about.
Until I say I do, you say you won't. But I got news for you. Until you say you do, I don't. Your mama says until I say I do, you say you won't. But I got news for you. Until you say you do, I don't get no satisfaction. Hang around your door. Good first you do and then you don't. I won't take that anymore.
Favorite song at the time when we were first put it together, but if I could write another song like that, because it just is what it is. I look back at it now because it's like this unique kind of
it's
thing.
anthemic in some ways because you got the silence with the vocal and all that, and it's a sing-along type of a setup, right? I mean, it is.
Yeah, and so that was like in '79, and then we knew we were going to be signed to a record deal. We started recording our album it was early '79 when Mama Says was all done, and it was September of '79 we started recording our first album. We went down for 2 weeks and then to Florida to record the first part of it. Then we went down for 2 more weeks to finish up the record. And by May, the record was out and the song was on the radio and we had a hit. I mean, it was like when it started happening, it happened
Just like that, huh?
Like that, yeah.
How did you feel at this point? Was this like was it overwhelming at the time, or was it just you were eating it up, kind of like just riding the wave?
It kind of riding the wave because you almost, half of you can't believe it's actually happening, and half of you believe, well, that's always should have happened. So you're also in a kind of like torn thing, but you always have these different exciting things happening. I remember. There used to be a place, and believe it or not, it was a disco, but I could go get caught up with my friends when I was off the road. It was called, that was in Berea too. Why can't I remember the name of it? That's what sucks about getting old. But anyways, I'm coming out. I met a girl there. I'm coming out. We're going to go get something to eat. I get in my car, and there's BLF Bash playing an album cut off of the Love Affair album. And see, I just still remember, I'm like going, Love Affair. And I'm like going, that's me. That's me.
Is that really surreal sometimes when that would happen?
Especially when it was the MMS people, because you're listening. At that time,
yeah.
They're like leading you down the path, that kind of thing, and they're playing my stuff, and then it was like when we started touring, and I was somewhere in Georgia. I'm hearing Mama Says on the radio, and that was another time when I went, and I remember those moments.
Yeah.
And then I remembered at one point I was like changing the station when Mama Says came on from one station to another, and I'm like going, oh, I turned into a jaded idiot in just a month, 2 months, because, and it was really, I was just trying to catch other stuff that was going on and stuff, but it was like.
I've heard this song.
Yeah, I know the song. I know the guy that wrote it. Let me get on to the next thing,
So writing songs, what's your, how do you do it? I mean, did they just come to you and then all of a sudden you just got to get in there and start getting it? How does it happen?
It happens sometimes with a hook, like I have a lyrical hook sometimes. Sometimes it's happened because I had a lyrical concept that I started writing. Those are usually the harder ones. Like if you have lyrics first and you're trying to make a song to the
around the lyrics.
Whereas sometimes I've usually found when I've had an idea of a song in my head and I start doing it, and then the lyrics, it's easier to fill in the lyrics. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I always try to have a hook, so I have what the song was based about, and sometimes they're really fast and sometimes they're really slow.
Just depending on how it feels, huh? This comes out you that way.
Yeah, there was a song called Nikki's Got a Girlfriend that was on Love Affair's third album, and I had the concept of the song coming home. I forget, we did a show at the Columbus Agora, and we're driving home that night. We decided not to stay there, and I'm sitting there scribbling down lyrics. So I had this idea about I wanted it to be about a girl, but you don't know it's a girl till the end, but Nikki's got a girlfriend, and that kind of thing. And I wanted to keep the subject where it wasn't controversial, but it was more like, but this is what's going on. It was more like just like taking a mirror and go, this is part of life,
Yeah.
And I had all the lyrics done. I woke up in the morning and I wrote the song, and it was done. I almost felt like I dreamed the song, and the song was done and over exactly the way I wanted it to be. And I just went, whoa. I just felt like somebody else had written the song, not
no
me,
kidding.
There was also a song on that album called Video World that was the same thing. I kind of like felt like it wrote itself, and I was just like being a conduit,
Just going through you.
Yeah. Now I've been really slow writing songs these days because my life has just been involved. You need that childlike ability, when you can just shut out the world. Like you get an idea going and say you were going to be doing this, and now I'm gonna do that. Well, my life isn't that way anymore. So sometimes I'll get an idea and I'll get it started. I have a million ideas sitting around.
I got you.
Because life is taken. There's. Advancing all the Hermits shows and making sure everything's done, that's like a job in itself. So I get off a plane and then I'm doing that, during the day. It's like an office like kind of thing.
You're kind of like doing the behind the scenes work.
And I don't like my brain going from one side to the other, Yeah,
right. Yeah, that's what you got to do. All right. We're going to take a break real quick. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit about Richard and the Heartbeats. A little bit about Gary Lewis and the Playboys, all the stuff that happened after Love Affair. Maybe we'll even talk about what happened to Love Affair. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, we could do. Yeah.
When we come back in a couple minutes, Rich Spina.
Hello, Cleveland. I am ZM Delgado, author of the Rust Belt Rock Review at ZachO'Lantern.com, and I am here courtesy of Level Up Cleveland to give you the weekend concert update. First of all, Friday the 9th at the Outpost Concert Club in Kent, we have a special appearance by Head PE. That's going to be pretty awesome, guys. Pretty big band, pretty small club, probably going to be a great experience. Saturday the 10th and 11th at No Class Cleveland, we have got Hacked Up for Barbecue, Death Fest, and Pig Roast. 16 bands over 2 days. Both events are headlined by Mortician. In support, you've got a slew of acts, including Embalmer, Castrator, Mutalitred, Nunslaughter, Girth, Snuffed Out, Sanguisugabog, and my boys in Mutilation Barbecue. Also on your weekend docket, we've got Sunday the 11th at the Grog Shop Ska Show. Headliner Mephistopheles. In support, The Plaid, Disasters, and Obnox. There you have it. I hope to see you out there at the shows. I hope to find out that you're all still watching Level Up Cleveland every week and reading the Rust Belt Rock Review. Keep rocking, Cleveland. Back to you, Brian.
And we are back with Rich Spina. I do want to talk about a little bit more about Love Affair, because at some point Love Affair ended. So what happens there? How does a band like that? You guys are doing well. You guys seem like you're taking off, and then what goes wrong?
Well, I think first of all, we were all together from we were in high school, and and especially hindsight is 2020. I can speak this more clearly now. Is that as we were growing up, some of us were growing in different directions. Some of us didn't want to be in it full time, anymore. Some wanted to do something different. It first started when John wanted to leave, and it was see, here I was young and wouldn't even thought about that. He didn't want to miss things when his second child was just being born. He didn't want to miss the same things he missed with his first child. Yeah, right. And that was a time when Love Affair was touring extensively. We would do two-month tours in Canada each year, and then we'd get back down to Florida and stuff, and like, of course, at my age then, I didn't necessarily totally understand. I'm going like, why would he want to leave? That kind of thing and stuff. And so that already put a change in. And don't get me wrong, we found the replacement. Jim Golan was great. He was a great player and all that. But there was something about Love Affair, about the five guys and how we worked together that was special. Then our bass player, Wayne, decided he was going to leave, and he was given a short notice. We had just finished recording the third album. We were getting ready. They were shopping the record and all that, and he just then wanted out, and then that was it. So now it's three of the original members, and we brought in a phenomenal bass player, Mark Best, to come and play, but it still wasn't the same. And then the final straw for me, well, at least we left management first, was when we were leaving management, was we're up in Canada on tour. We had just finished recording our third album that we were all happy with. Barry Moraz produced it, the guy that produced the first 9 Styx albums, that did Benny Mardona's Into the Night, that produced the Ohio Players stuff. He was happy. We were happy. Right before we went up to Canada, supposedly the song was Love Strikes, that they were going to release as a single, was sent, and one of the top dance mix guys had done a dance mix thing with it that we heard once, and we actually liked it. We're cracking up laughing because they're actually slicing up parts of the song and stuff. Right. So we go up in Canada to go do our first tour, and I get a call from Otto, our manager, going, here. He had a German accent and stuff. He goes, we didn't like it, thought it was too fast, so Quinn and I went in and remixed it and slowed it down. And I went, you did what? And it was like the first time, some of the band members were standing there, couldn't believe it, I ever screamed at Otto, and I actually screamed. And he said, well, what are you worried about? You'll be able to hear it when you come down. Well, they're already sending it for pressing, and all that. And so I got down, and sure enough, it was as bad as I thought that it was. And what he didn't know is that then we had this photo shoot. In fact, I crack up laughing. It might be on my website too, but we're standing there as we're signing with the reps for the RCA deal, and stand there, and I see the look in my eyes. I know, because I was leaving that photo shoot to go meet with a lawyer, and because I was to start the proceeds to leave Otto as our manager, and that was in July of '83. And on January 1st of 84, walked in and left him, threw the paper down. It was, I'm not going to get into all the details. It got crazed, for a minute or two, but we got everything, including the third album. I own it still that's why I was able to eventually release it. Because when we left him, only the EP from Dream RCA came out. And the album was supposed to follow, but they saw the turmoil within the thing, so that kind of dropped. So we went back to our name Love Affair. That was that New York Minute where they wanted to call the band Unknown Stranger. And I should probably tell the reason is that when the first Love Affair album came out.
Yeah, tell us the whole thing.
The rock stations thought it was a disco band because it was called Love Affair. So they weren't going on the records, some of them. And some of the disco stations thought, oh, Love Affair, let's see what this is. It's like, we're going to. So the label, Radio Records, had a problem with the name Love Affair, and we had no problem with it. We knew what it was and what it meant. So that's why when the second album came out, with, and it was, but they wanted to emphasize our initials. First lie that we ever had told us. They said they wanted to emphasize the initials, but it would say Love Affair. Well, no, it said L.A., Do You Wanna, and had L.A. as Love Affair on the back. Now we pissed off MMS because they thought we were trying to
use L.A.
Yeah, in fact, there's an interview when I didn't even think about it because L.A. used to be, we'd say that was our fan club thing. L.A. only meant Love Affair to me. So I'm going to do this big interview with Kid Leo on the second album, and he goes, so with all this Cleveland pride and all this, why would you alter your name to L.A.? I mean, what first comes to mind when you hear L.A.? I went, Love Affair. No, it was like, and it was just a tough interview, and I was hit broadside. So that was a second problem. So then when Dream RCA signs the group, everybody has a bright idea for a new name, and we thought it was the stupidest thing in the world. So they held a contest, and then they came up with the name Unknown Stranger. It only lasted for 6 months, the release of that single EP, and then that was it. We left Otto, went back to the name Love Affair. Our money went right back up in Cleveland and went right back up on our touring thing, and we ran out the next year. I had told the drummer at that point I was really only staying in the band now because he was enjoying playing with the new bass player, and I said, if you decide you're out, then that's it. Even though Wes, the other guitarist, and I were real close, it just wasn't feeling like Love Affair anymore. Yeah. So Mike, after we came off of one of our most successful Canadian tours, he told me that he wanted out. So we had a group meeting, even with our road crew, and all decided that, it was time to retire the band, and we took it to a vote, and Wes didn't want to put up his hand, but saw that everybody else had said that was what they wanted to do. I just said it'd be egotistical, Wes, for you and I to think that we could still call this Love Affair. Yeah. And
although so many bands do that, I mean.
yeah. But I mean, I just, it's why. But see, we respected the bands like Led Zeppelin.
Oh yeah, right.
When
one guy's down,
died, I said that was done. It. And so I don't know. That was how the end of Love Affair really came about. That was giving you all the
inside stuff.
Yeah. And
I noticed you said during that though a few times how you toured Canada. Were you guys bigger in Canada? Did you guys sell well in Canada? Did the album do well there? What was the reason why you?
What was funny was the albums was only on imports there. We went up there. Actually, we went up there when there was a band called Cleveland. It used to be around.
I remember Cleveland. Mark Buchwald's mom was in Cleveland.
Yeah,
she was the singer, actually.
Polly? I mean,
she was. Remember when they did that world record? They broke the record or something like that?
They broke the record.
Yeah.
Anyways, they were really successful with their 70 Minutes of Insanity up in Canada, but they were having a problem in Cleveland. So the agency that handled us was getting them shows in Cleveland. They turned them on to places up in Canada. So when the very first time we went up to Canada, even though Love Affair was already, a recording act, stuff, where else, we went up there doing two things. We did our original show, and then we did a Led Zeppelin, an hour of Led Zeppelin. Well, after the first time we were there, we were able to drop the Zeppelin. That would only be like an encore. It was really all original. They loved our original stuff, and we packed the places that we went to, and that's what we did, like from beginning of 82 through 84. Yes, we would do two-month tours that would take us, and we never even went far west. It was off Ontario, Quebec, New Brunswick, and Nova Scotia. And I believe we went to Newfoundland once. But it was great. I was actually looking to move there at one point, almost
really
to Toronto. Yeah, and I met friends there. We were having a blast. I was having a blast there in all kinds of ways, and we did well. And it was really the live thing that was great for us. So we made a lot of money. We come back. We come back home and we'd play certain places, but we didn't play a lot of places because we didn't want to hurt our crowd at that point, because we're really just doing a 90-minute original show by that time.
Right. So I guess the one question that keeps coming to my head through this whole thing is, you guys are definitely getting a taste of success at this point, and it's still early. I mean, you guys, relatively in a successful band's career, you guys are early on in the career. Why are these guys wanting to get out? Is it? I mean, I guess what it could be, and I'm thinking is sometimes it's lack of success that breaks up the band. But sometimes success, guys start getting a taste of what the life is really going to be like, and then they're like, you know what, this isn't really what
Well, that's what it is. Some of them, and you hit right on it. That's why I said we all grew up, and we grew up in different directions. Now, mind you, when I say this, all five of us are still extremely close. We've all stayed really, really, really close and all that. And we just had to go through the little period of not understanding why somebody left the band and stuff. But we were all like brothers, I mean, our parents would, it was a big deal when one person's parent passed, because we were kind of like all their kids, you know what I mean? We didn't start really young, but, for the three members, for Wes, Wayne, and John, it's the only band they ever had. That's the very first band they ever formed. And they eventually, the drummer was the second last piece of the band, and I was the last piece of the band. And I used to make a joke. If you're a West Sider, you understand that. The three of them, the four of them were all from Berea. I was from Mid Park. I said they had to get some Mid Park class in the band to finally solidify.
Right. Well, Berea, Mid Park, and Brook Park, right? Those are Middleburg Heights and Brook Park, right? That was the three.
Yeah.
Okay, so Love Affair's over with. Now you're not in any mood to quit music whatsoever. You're the one guy that's never quitting, and as time shows, you didn't. So what do you do then?
I recorded an album. I'd put together the band. I had already had it together, and we were going to be called Richard and the Heartbeats, and going to go in a slightly different direction. That was the other thing too. I was starting to write more poppy kind of stuff, and I'll be honest. I mean, I had a natural lean towards it, but it was also a business thing in me. When I was watching, the more crossover stations you crossed over on, the more successful you were, you know, and all that. So I was like going, okay, so it even kind of makes sense. All right. And so that was what became Richard and the Heartbeats. I recorded an album before I actually had the band. The band came afterwards. I had different people playing on it. Gosh, Kurt Yano played on it. Tommy Brame, who was in a group called Moonlight Drive, who ended up being my first guitarist in the band too, played on it. Ray Varga, who was a sax player with Moonlight Drive at the time, played on it, and it was easy to find. A lot of people wanted
to get involved.
I was Rich Spina from Love Affair, and all that. So it was like there was people to pick from and stuff, but I'd never done that before. I've been with the exact same people, so I'm just trying to figure out what would be the best way to go. So I recorded the album, and I thought I was going to get signed really quick, and that didn't happen. So I eventually started building the live band together and stuff, trying to get the band as strong as what I thought Love Affair was, as far as a live performing band. And then I released a song called Somebody Loves You in 1986 myself, and it became a big hit here in Cleveland, and it became a hit in a few other pocket places. I just didn't have the ability. I was self-managed at that point. I was running my own career. I didn't know how to parlay the radio airplay I was getting and all that. That's probably the time when I was probably most really overwhelmed in the true sense of the word. In other words, I didn't know how to parlay all that stuff. I'm trying to, all I am is just an artist,
Right.
And
So this at this point though, you're trying to you're wearing more hats now.
Yes.
Is partially that because of the bad taste that was left in your mouth from the previous thing with the manager and all that stuff? Are you like saying, you know what, now I'm going to do things?
Yeah, well, there was a little bit of that, and then it was a little bit of like it's going to have to be somebody that's going to move a career forward, not somebody that's just making a paycheck, And don't get me wrong, Otto was great when we were younger. He was more like a football coach. There couldn't have been a better manager for a bunch of 16, 17, and 18-year-olds growing up than him. It's just that he didn't know when to pass the ball.
Right.
I remember one incident. Premier Talent wanted to sign the band when Mama Says was out and all that. Well, that would have meant we would have been opening up for 20,000 seaters for like
arena
two
stuff.
years. Yeah, arena stuff. And they made the decision no. And, it really was their own financial thing. Energy Talent would lose their thing of trying to parlay us. They thought we were better off playing small concert rooms and stuff, whereas, we wouldn't know who Jay Giles in Kansas is if it wasn't for the fact of them opening up for the world.
I was going to say that. Van Halen.
Yeah.
I mean, there's tons of the biggest bands ever that because they were at some point opening.
Yeah, so I don't hold mistakes against, everybody's going through it the first time, but I sure filed it away because you know what? You have to strike the right things when it's hot because when it's not, we released the second album, and Love Affair, by all means in Cleveland, everything was bigger than we ever were, but the album kind of flopped. So once the album kind of flopped, the offers weren't coming in for those for that thing because I think Otto realized he had made a mistake at that point, but there was just too much of that, too much where he still wanted to keep controlling things instead of, you got to look for people that know how to move into the next step,
And different jobs for different people to do different things, and that's how you get through this.
Yeah. And but I was still left with my talent and all the lessons that I learned from it, and I was probably unmanageable at that moment in Rich and the Heartbeats too, because I knew I had to prove something, and I really had to prove it myself. And once I got Somebody Loves You and it was on the radio, and I proved probably more to myself than anybody else, then I was looking to move, and I was looking to put people together. I tried to put a couple of people together for management and stuff. It just didn't work out the way that I thought it was going to work out, and Then there was a time I almost signed with CBS. I think it was CBS Records. And they were also interested in me being a producer for the developmental acts. So I was like all excited. I was really, really excited. In fact, I remember all that was going on at the same time when the Light of Day movie was coming out here. That was
Joan Jett.
Yeah, because I got to go to the premiere of it because CBS was there and they were meeting with me, and so I got to go because of that. I got to meet Michael J. Fox and Joan Jett and stuff, and so I really thought it was happening, and then it didn't happen. They passed. So I'm sitting there at the end of 1984, and I'm like going, what do I do now? I had this, that was the other thing with Somebody Loves You. I even had press that I couldn't even have hoped for. They're playing it on the new, when 96 or 98 first restarted, when Denny Sanders was there and all that short time period. Somebody Loves You had gone up to number 4. There, Graham Nash is coming in for an interview. And the first thing he says, he goes, what was that song you just played by that group? And made a whole big thing about the song and loved it, and ended up leaving with a copy to take to a friend of his in Australia. So I'm getting all these interviews and all that, and I'm like going, I don't know what else I can do to make anything happen, and I lost that, and that deal didn't happen. So I'm going, what the do I do next? So I was going to release another single, and I did. Then I went, and then I injured, I'll go to the first hand. I injured this hand. And I'm sitting there going, you know what? And it's January of, it was 86. It was January of 87. And I'm like going, I shouldn't at this age have to play out and play out one-handed. Billy and I just started playing together as a duo to heal, to keep money going together and this and that. And I got to quit throwing money, because I was all my own money going into the Richard and Heartbeats project. Money I gotten from Love Affair and other things. And I said, there's got to be a better way. So I decided I was going to move to Nashville. And I was going to move to Nashville. I could play out as a piano bar and try to sell my songs, because they still had publishers that actually signed songwriters and stuff. And I was going to do that. And then I got a call from Gary Lewis's manager asking me to put together a new Playboys. Because I'd played a spot date for him in 1985 or 86 or whatever. And I went, that sounds right. That sounds what I could do right now. My only intention was going to be to do that for a year, kind of lick my wounds, and then get right back into the business. And I did that. Some of my heroes started becoming my friends, and I was enjoying doing it. And then Sonny Geraci, who you know from Cleveland, Time Won't Let Me and Add Precious and Few were his hits. He's with the Outsiders and all that. He was doing one of the oldies shows, and I'd known him because, believe it or not, he opened up for Love Affair when he was coming out with an album at one point. And he gave me the best wisdom in the world. And I say exactly what he said it to me, because we had done a summer together. It was called the Super Rock of the 60s tour, where it was Gary Lewis headlined, Billy J. Kramer, we backed him up, Sonny Geraci, and we backed him up, and Dennis Yost, who was in the Classics 4. And Sonny just looked at me, he goes, Rich, he goes, I always loved you. He goes, you are a great frontman. He goes, but there's a lot of great frontmen. He goes, you're a fantastic singer. He goes, there's a lot of fantastic singers. He goes, you're a really good songwriter. He goes, there's not as many of them, but you can still do that. He goes, but what you do for Gary Lewis, giving 110% of yourself for somebody else, he goes, that's rare. You decide to do that, you're going to work the rest of your life. And he was right.
Yeah,
I was 31 years old. I'm going to be 67 in November. And
yeah, and you're still doing it. You made a career.
And they're my friends. Mitch Ryder's one of my close friends. I talk to him almost weekly and stuff. And Gary and I are still close. Billy and I just did a date with Gary. Our boss Peter was on vacation in France, and Gary had a date in New Orleans that he needed a keyboard and guitar. So we said, we'll do it. Yeah, I'll go. And so. It's like, and through a good portion of that, it was good. I was writing for other people. I produced Sonny's album where he did like 7 or 8 of my songs and stuff. And, Billy Huffsey has recorded some of my songs. He was on Fame and that, because he was a Brook Park boy, originally.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I've even worked with Mark Lindsay in my studio. Billy J. Kramer in my studio in Brook Park. Some of the stars that wandered around in Brook Park is like pretty funny. But so, anyways, I was really enjoying myself through that, because I was still writing and all that. So I have no regrets, but it was a definite shift, because I'd really felt I'd done everything I could, and I was 31 years old. It was time to start, if I wanted to stay in the music business, start thinking how I could be rewarded for it without worrying about that great hit,
How does it you and Billy Sullivan are kind of almost like synonymously, kind of in some ways linked together, and I mean partially because you guys perform together now, but you guys are always kind of like, at some point there's just your guys, and I'm sure part of it's just the time that you guys were both in the music scene.
Well, there's some kind of synergy that happens with us, because Billy is 7 years younger than me. I first met Billy because his brother wanted me to hear him. Love Affair was together, and Billy was a teenager then. That's when he looked like He looked like a young Peter Frampton. He had long hair and all that stuff when I first talked to him. But we became friends when we're hanging out at Kirk Yano's studio, and he was coming, he'd come off the road with Paul Pope, and I'd be off the road with Love Affair, and we'd sometimes go see some things. It wasn't until 1986, 87 when we started playing together, and that was all by a fluke. Billy had his 85 hit, 86 hit of Never Again, local hit and stuff. You know each other. I was doing my piano bar. He came out to the piano bar one night, and at the same time I had Somebody Loves You out, and he got up and did a song or two with me. I had a great night happening. It was at a place called Dave's, which used to be Bober's, which is now Rivals, in Middleburg Heights.
Oh.
And the owner came up and wanted me to add another night, and that's usually a kiss of death. You don't want to screw up a great night if you got it going. And so I said, yeah. He goes, well, what about that blonde-haired guy? So I go, Billy, you want to do a night? No, I don't want to play alone. I go, well, I'm not playing that night. I'll do it with you. And that's how our duo was born.
No kidding.
And then that just
kind of started. That's the birth.
And I started getting rid of my piano bar dates and doing all duo dates. And we both went into Gary Lewis and the Playboys together, and we were there for 18 years and involved in everything else. And if I'm in the studio, I don't really want anybody else in there but Billy. There's things. We're like a yin and a yang to each other.
That's great.
You know what I mean? He's got perfect pitch. I have relative pitch. All my relatives have it. But I worry about feel. Like we're really good when we're teaming up on recordings and stuff.
Absolutely.
And then there was a time period where we weren't together for a bit. We went our separate ways. That's when I went with Hermits, and he went back with Gary Lewis. But then 3 years later, he came in with the Hermits, and and now we're back to playing a lot more than I ever thought we would, like locally and stuff, and having fun.
Another thing I remember is Love Affair reunited at one point. In like 2002 for a little while there, they got back together.
Well, yeah, but it wasn't that reunited permanently. We did a reunion show. It actually what first happened was Deanna Adams was coming out with that book about rock and roll in Cleveland and all that, and so they wanted to have some of the people. I got the guys in Love Affair, but it wasn't the full band. It was everybody except Wayne. Wayne didn't do it, so we brought in somebody else to play bass on it, and we did. We call it the not true reunion. In 2002, and so we did the thing at the Rock Hall. Then we played at the Odeon and did a show at the Odeon. And it was okay. It was fine, but it wasn't the same. But our big one was we did two. We did one in 2012 where we did two sold-out back-to-back shows at Tangiers. And that was the original lineup. And then we did it again in 2016. I was 60 years old, 6 months away from being 61. And that was probably the show where even our deepest fans, when we did the reunion in 2012, it was strictly our albums and a little Led Zeppelin medley before Mama Says at the end. And there were two 90-minute shows where I did. First time I had to, in a while, do a 90-minute show. Wait, they cleared them out, bring people in, and do a 90-minute show again. But it was good and it was fun. But then the rest of the band finally got what I was saying when we were rehearsing. The rehearsals were our reunion. That was we're all getting together telling stories. But I kept saying, there's nothing I can do from here up. But from here down, I could be exactly the way I was, the way they remembered me. And that was what it was all about. And so in 2016, everybody was kind of playing into that way. Everything was about doing it for the fans. We picked the songs that we did by the ones that the fans loved the most. We were never personally big on 17 and You're a Star that was on the first Love Affair album, but the fans loved it, so we did it, then we did a throwback from what they would have remembered us in the bar days, which really blew away some of the other people that only knew us as a recording act. We did a little small Four Seasons medley within the thing. We did, there was something else that we did. We encored with Bohemian Rhapsody.
Really?
Yeah.
Now, I've seen you do that by yourself, playing with Billy, actually. I saw you did That's amazing. But you guys actually did that too. So
We did that song back in 76, 77 and stuff. And we did it. We didn't do it
You
as
did all the
well on
harmonizing
that
and everything? I mean, you guys had all that stuff
Well,
all planned out properly, basically?
Yes. But you know what it is that it's not that there weren't a part or two missing, but as long as you were doing what was on the record, people subliminally hear the rest of it.
Yeah. I heard what you're saying, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
And that was the big surprise because that nobody knew it. We just went on. It was weaker than we had done it in practice, but it was still good and it was fun. But to our fans that remembered us as a power band and all that, they walked away with and it was a 2-hour and 10-minute show nonstop. We just did one show that time, and I guess I kind of knew that was going to be the last one.
Did everybody kind of feel that way? Was there ever a moment? Did you ever hear anybody like, "Man, this was fun. We should get the band back together"?
Well, we all loved it, but it was also still the managing what everybody wanted to do. Would I have been happy to do more shows? Yes. Wes didn't want to do it again unless we were going to do multiple shows. Wayne only wants to do 1 or 2 shows, and that was it. So it really was more like we juggled it as far as we could juggle it. Is probably and now Wes's health is would limit him from doing it. I just saw him last week. We're hoping he gets better, but he's been having some health problems.
That sucks.
Yeah.
All right. So 2006, you joined Herman's Hermits.
Yes.
With Peter Noon.
Yeah.
How does that happen?
Well, I actually knew Peter from back in 1988 because me and Billy, we were with Playboys, had backed him up before, and we'd seen him on the circuit. Somehow he knew that I'd left Gary Lewis, and he asked me if I wanted to come work for him. And I just said yes. I already knew nobody worked more than him. I mean, even then. I mean, he's an unbelievable entertainer. I mean, he in fact he got Entertainer of the Year right before the pandemic in 2019 for all the casino things and all that stuff. And that was up against some big heavy hitters and stuff. And so it's just a great relationship. Plus, I was a big fan of Hermits as a kid. At one point, they passed the Beatles on my turntable for one, 6 month, 8 month, 8-month period and stuff. And so it's been fun. It's hard to believe now I'm getting ready to go into my 17th year. And,
Wow.
Because that still feels like my new thing that I did.
Yeah, well, that's the latest kind of, right? I mean, except for
I honestly don't know how much longer, though. I mean, like what I did say about the pandemic is it made me realize there's lots of other things that I'd like to do that was doing creative. I could retire. I listened to my parents. I listened to both my parents and saved my money, put my money away, and no matter which way my career was going, I kind of lived like that and stuff. But not to retire, but I think maybe next year might be my last year on the road.
No kidding. Just stay local after that and just do some
because I honestly, I love playing the date. Me and Billy play on our Monday nights. Billy won't be because he's on vacation. It'll just be me by myself. I love playing at my church on Sundays. I love being creative again and working on stuff. I would like to write more. And truthfully, I have less sunsets left in my life, and I want to enjoy some things. The road, I don't get me wrong, I'm grateful. I am been blessed that I've never had to do anything but music. But it's really like redirecting what kind of music that I want to do. I don't know how much longer I want to do the 4 a.m. I mean, and I hope nobody's hearing this right now. But I mean, I don't know. I just don't know how many more years. I'll be 68 by the end of next year.
Well, it's a lot just traveling, and not only that, but traveling is not like it used to be. It's a pain in the ass.
No,
these airports is all.
It's all
Yeah,
it all started back in 2001 where it started getting bad. It just keeps getting worse and worse.
Yeah, it's not fun. It takes the fun out of a lot of it. Yeah,
it took the fun out of it. I mean, I go back to the days where I remember my girlfriend could be waiting for me at the gate. You know what I mean? That's gone. Because you can't even. I'm talking about all the things with security and stuff like that. Yeah, and there's a million ways, and you really always have to be at the airport an hour and a half beforehand because you don't know if it ever raised a threat level. It's 90 minutes for me is because I'm clear and I'm TSA pre and all this and that. I get the airport in Cleveland. I'm at my gate in like 5 minutes, between being checked in and through security. But I got to be there 90 minutes before, and I just bring my laptop and try to do work.
When you say you do work, are you doing like the booking type stuff or stuff like that, or do you?
I don't.
You don't have like
booking.
editing software in the.
I do have editing software on
you-
there, but mostly I'm doing. I'll try to be doing some of the stuff where I'm advancing production, like making sure. My job with that is I make sure they have our backline exactly the way I see what we require. That they have the PA, they have the follow spots for Peter. They know that we have a sign, a backdrop that has to go up. If we're responsible, if they're picking us up and stuff like that, I have to give them all of our flight information so they pick us up and get us. And and sometimes, and now post pandemic, when you talk about things that have changed, there's places we play it regularly where now it's all different people.
Oh, yeah,
Or
yeah.
there's some people doing double duty, and a lot of things changed, during, the pandemic. So sometimes I'm calling more different people, and sometimes I'm researching out who my people are and stuff again to talk to. So
Can you see a time maybe in the future where the music part is no longer what you're doing anymore? You're more now into just production. Can you see that, or is it something like where the music is in your soul and everything
I don't think I
else?
could ever leave the music. In fact, even if I'm talking about if I might pull it, like sure, it's because I want more music, less of the business aspect of it, or less of the traveling to go make music.
Yeah, right.
So it would be production, and it would still be playing, and it would still be and hopefully writing more again, because then I'd also have the time to shut out the world if I'm like I get an idea, and stuff. And
Are you one of those people where you have to write? It's almost like a curse that you have, that if you didn't have an outlet musically to get things out of you, that it would you feel like something it would not be good.
When I was younger, absolutely. It's not anymore. I'm kind of happy, like what I was saying before. The older I get, the more grateful I get, the more I realize how blessed I was, and happier. That's the only way I can say. In other words, more appreciative of things. And so with that, it sometimes kills some of that kind of hunger, like, oh Lord, please don't let me be misunderstood,
Oh yeah, very
that kind of thing.
great.
You still never asked me about the Tam O'Shanter though.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that. Yeah, because really that was what really, once I saw that before we had Drew Loesch on the show.
Oh, okay.
I saw that. I just came upon it, and
Drew's a sweetheart.
yeah, he's a great guy. The other guy I wanted to mention was Tyrone Hornbuckle, because he was.
Oh yeah, Tyrone.
Yeah, Tyrone was
What a
like, make
great
sure
guy.
you get Rich on your show, and don't let him tell you he's not a great keyboard player. He is. That's what he told me.
Yeah, I would say I'm just a chord puncher.
That's what he said. He goes, he always talks about, oh, I'm not that good. He's like, he really is good. But with Drew, Drew's a pretty cool guy. I mean, he has all this footage. He's done all this work, but in all this time, he doesn't get compensated really for it. He just did all this for
Love.
and people, the reason we had him on was because to me, not only was he a super cool dude, but I was like, this guy has the Holy Grail. I mean, he has everything. He's got everybody. If you want to tell the story, you need this guy because he's documented it. He has it all. But he had that.
And I watched that whole thing happen as a slow burn. I mean, it grew to bigger than he even thought it was going to be. He just wanted to start documenting stuff, and then it just turned into this.
Yeah, well, he was the only one doing it for one, so everybody was like, hey, come to my gig, do my thing. But the Tam O'Shanter, is that what it's called?
Tam O'Shanter, yeah, when he said, I remember that now, yeah.
He said that the way he described it was there was a night where a ton of the top musicians kind of got together and basically just had a jam night, basically, and interchange parts and stuff. And there's one specific thing where you're doing Janis Joplin. And, I mean, literally, it's hard to tell that it's not her singing their freaking songs.
She's another one of my favorites.
Yeah, you have even like every Like all the small things that she does, you were doing all of them. You obviously knew the song. Like,
Yeah, I didn't even bother changing the he or she's in it. I kept it.
yeah, we know. I remember the first time I showed it to somebody, they're like, "Well, why did he say that?" And I'm like,
I'm the
"He's just
first
singing the fucking
non-binary person. Hey,
words." That's great.
and it's documented. No.
Yeah, and you're smoking a cigarette while you're singing that song too. I was see that cigarette. I'm like, how does he do that? Look at that. He defies everything.
Was that Tommy Rich on drums on that one? I'm trying to remember because Tommy Rich was there. I know George Sipple was on. During that whole day, a whole night, a whole bunch of things happened on that night. You know,
Crazy stuff.
Yeah.
All that's not all documented, but a lot of crazy stuff. Was that one of those nights that you just don't forget? Like a night. There's got to be a few of those, right?
Well, you know what it was is that it was a great night and a great time he had. I didn't remember that it was also being filmed or anything. Didn't even know that. And then it all became like all the memories came back from that, you know.
Oh, yeah.
That also had Paul Sidoti, who was my bass player at the time with Herman's, with Gary Lewis and the Playboys. He's been with Taylor Swift her whole, her whole career as her guitarist and stuff. Well, he's on the bass on some of those, and he's on drums on a couple of those and stuff. And he wasn't on guitar though, which was his instrument.
Isn't that something?
Yeah, but he was bass player for me when I had him with Gary Lewis and the Playboys. He was just a little 21-year-old guy at that point and stuff.
What if when you're looking back at the whole career you have, it's a pretty cool career. I mean, you really did. You were able to put together something that, I mean, I could see you being proud of your career. Why wouldn't you be, right? I mean,
I'm happy. I'm fortunate. I have no regrets.
Is there anything that comes to mind immediately though from this whole life that you've lived where you're like there's just that one thing that you're like, that was just, I mean, it seems to me like something would stick out after all of this.
Well, I do have one of them was when I was with the Topping of the Rock in Cleveland when they put together was a Cleveland super band. They all had to have some kind of like success with it, and I was invited to be a part of that. So I played all day with Wally Bryson, who was one of my heroes from Raspberries, with Jim Bonfanti, who was heroes. Michael Stanley was also played with in the band. Dale Peters from James Gang was in it. Joe Vitale was a part of it and all that. And we were just playing all day, as they were putting the last bit of rock. And that was one of the high points of my life. And
no kidding, yeah. It's like an all-star band.
Yeah, and that I was the youngest guy in the band at that time, you know, that too. And then there was it's more like they're more like odd things like that. Like there was a time too when I was at Hyde Park. I was seeing Dennis Lewin, who was songwriter for Boku and keyboard player, wrote songs. He'd play a piano bar, and his sister would sing with him, and she's unbelievable talent. And I was there with Sonny Geraci, and Eric Herman was there. So Eric and Sonny and I are sitting there talking. Right? Then Eric gets behind the piano, and then I start singing Eric's songs to him. He's trying to stump me. So he's playing and trying to stump me with that. And Eric, is one of amongst my favorite songwriters, along with, Carole King and the Beatles and Jimmy Webb. Right. And so it was special to me because it was Eric Carmen. I remember Raspberries and Eric Carmen, and he's just trying to challenge to see if he could. It
was like a game. You guys are like playing a game. Yeah. I'll play the music. You got to come up with the words and sing it.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, those moments like that. There was one other moment.
So exchanging stuff
you got me going.
Yeah, man, I love it.
Burton Cummins came out to see us, and up in Canada, we were in Winnipeg, and it was for the Rock and Roll Army tour thing that we were doing. And so I was with Gary Lewis. Mark Lindsay was on the bill, and who else was on that one? I don't remember, but Burton Cummins came out to see us. So afterwards, and he's a real historian, like of music and stuff. So we're up in this bar with at our hotel, and he's talking to me. He goes, "You got to love playing all those Leon Russell keyboard parts for Gary because Leon Russell played keyboards on all that stuff." And I said, "Oh yeah, it's like really, really cool." And I said, "And you know what?" And him and Mark Lindsay were friends. Or Mark Lindsay from Parver and Raiders and all that stuff. But they were talking, but he and I were talking. I said, one of my favorite songs of yours that, wasn't as big of a hit, but I know it was Glamour Boy. He goes, "You like that song?" So I goes, "You know it?" I said, Yeah, I know it. Oh, you're going to prove it to me now. We went to a duo piano bar, and we both got behind the piano and played a song. And
Awesome.
Mark Lindsay was there too. Billy Sullivan was there. Billy ended up playing percussion and stuff with us too. So we did that, and then we did. And then he came over and hugged me. Then we went back to the piano and we played a bunch of old rockers. Then the thing was over, and then they wanted him back up, and so we went back up. Went to These Eyes. He went to go to the piano. He goes, hey, you know my song's good. He just went and sat at the piano and sang it while I played it then. And,
Awesome.
And that was a high point, but that was before iPhones. So,
Oh, yeah, right. So there's no footage of that or anything like that.
No.
Well, I think we're out of time.
Yeah, I knew you wanted to get the Tam O'Shanter in there, so
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, actually, because I could talk to you for a long time, obviously. I think I talked to you pretty much all day about all this stuff. But we are out of time, and I just want to thank you for coming down, man.
Thank you for having me. This was a blast.
Yeah, this was a lot of fun. This was a fun one. All right, everybody. Rich Spina here with us. Finally, we got him. And that'll be it for us. We're out of here. We'll see you guys next week.
Hey, guys, thanks for having me.
Thank you.
That'll be fine.